Good afternoon and welcome to the Dublin, Florence County Development Authority's annual meeting. As you know, our mission is all about bringing jobs to our community. And we do that by working with existing industry and new industry that comes in. And we cannot do that by ourselves. It takes a team effort. And as I look across this room, I see that team out here today, and we just thank you for the job that you do, helping us, supporting us, assisting us throughout the years to bring jobs, to make this community a better place. So again, welcome, and thank all of you for coming today. At this time, I'm going to call on my fellow board members. Phil Gay is going to give the invocation, and Keith Griffin is going to give the Pledge of Allegiance. So thank you very much.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you as humbly as we know how this morning, thanking you for everything you do for us, thanking you for all the good things you give us. We thank you for just the essentials of life that you make so easy for us. We pray especially today for our military. We pray for the people on foreign soils, for young ladies and men that won't be home for Christmas and won't be with their parents, but they're protecting this liberty and way of life that we enjoy, that we call freedom. We thank you for the community. We thank you for the people that coordinate. We thank you for the elected officials and the leaders, the way they cooperate and work together. We pray that you bless us, but we thank you most of all for the gift of Jesus Christ, who gave his life on a cross that gives us the opportunity of eternal life. And we understand that that's the biggest blessing that we could ever incur. And we move through the season with that on our mind. Pray in all these things. Amen.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Beasley, a board member of the Development Authority. And as James said, we are so glad to have each of you here today. Thank you for taking your time out. I want to take a moment to welcome some special guests today. I believe we have some attendees from Senator Johnny Isakson and David Perdue and Congressman Rick Allen's office. Senator Larry Walker and Matt Hatch, Congress Representative Matt Hatch. State agency representatives, board members, including the Department of Community Affairs, Economic Development, Labor, Ports Authority, Technical College System, and the University System of Georgia. All of our local elected officials and school board members and officials. We got Fred Williams. And key economic development partners, including the Georgia Power and Oconee EMC.
Good afternoon again, and welcome again. On behalf of the Development Authority Board, thank you for coming today. And Griff, we especially thank you for bailing us out at the last minute. Most of you have heard by now that Senator Perdue got called back to D.C. to pass a spending, basically to keep the government funded. So Griff was gracious enough to come up and fill in for us. And you know, when you talk about the Georgia economy, nothing's more exciting than what's going on at Georgia Port. So we look forward to hearing from you, Griff. You've already heard from 4 of our members. Hey, all of a sudden, Roger Folsom, Jimmy Alga, and I make up our 7-member board, and it is one I consider one of our signal honors to be able to represent you as the Development Authority. We're also glad to have with our professional counsel with us, Mr. Mike Colley, and I didn't see Dan. Did Dan come in today? I'm not sure, but in any event, if you served on the Development Authority in the past, I know some of you are here, please stand. Let's give him a hand. There's one special lady that's with us today. I did see her, and she looks like all Christmassy. Miss Willie Paul, please stand and be recognized. It's been a while since we've met, and a lot has transpired. After a lengthy and thorough search all across this great nation, we found our president, Mr. Ryan Waldrop, right under our nose. So we got Ryan hired, had a retreat at Jimmy's camp house, and kind of laid our next 5-year plan out. And about 2 weeks after that, Ryan started officially as our new president. He'll talk to you in a minute about some of the things that we kind of prioritized during that meeting, during that day-long event. And it was a good day-long event. And obviously, folks, the local news the last year has been tough. But as recently as last week, we had a great announcement that Perry Ellis International had purchased the Fred's Distribution Center. We have some of our new Lawrence County residents with us here. If you're from Perry Ellis, please stand up. I met you earlier today. Let's give them a good Lawrence County welcome. These guys are already hiring and already moving things around, so we're excited to see what you guys do and look forward to working with you. Our authority and community have a rich history of economic success. It's been born out of determined visionary leadership, some of the men that stood up just a few minutes ago, and a pro-business culture that we have in our community. You know, we're blessed with incredible infrastructure. Our location is great. We have the river system, we have the interstate system, the highways, all the things that, quote, you have to have. One of the things that is not a tangible asset, but is an incredible asset, and it's called unified teamwork. Our cooperation between our city and county governments is not the norm. It's unique, and it gives the credit to Mayor Best and the council and the county commissioners. What Lance Jones and Brian Rogers, they work out things we never have to referee, and it really sets us apart. The other significant partners we have are you, the stakeholders. When we decide we need money to acquire new property, to improve existing property, we need things like SPLOST to do that. We were kind of at the front edge of that. Rural communities getting SPLOST passed to create funds for economic development. Y'all make that happen, so we thank you so much. I'd be remiss not to forget to mention that one of our key partners are the EMC and Georgia Power. And Georgia Power especially, today we thank you for helping sponsor this lunch. But this team effort is not common, folks. Pat Wilson, our current commissioner, has cited publicly Dublin, Lawrence County as the model that you want to emulate for doing rural economic development. So that's a credit to all of you in this room. The most exciting economic activity that we've enjoyed this past year has come from our existing industries. And many of these things you've seen just riding around the community. Some of them you haven't seen, some of them still in the planning stages, but it is incredible how many of our existing industries are planning, doing, making new investment in our community. So that's encouraging. That's also the trend all across the state of Georgia. 70% of the economic development projects this past year have been involving existing industry. So it's a good thing, you know, and we're excited about helping all of our existing industries in any way we can. If you're here today representing an existing industry, please stand. And that counts healthcare. I was going to say, David, stand up. Our healthcare is an industry. It's about employs, 2,000 or 3,000 people. So, lastly, I'd be remiss not to mention the folks that put this all together today. You know, behind every good organization, there's always some ladies that do all the work. You know, and so thanks to Miranda and Beth for putting this out today. And let me just talk about our staff real quick. This past year, last fall through this past June, we went through as I mentioned earlier, a thorough and lengthy search for our new president. During that time, an old friend, a legend in the state of Georgia economic development, Mr. Charlie Gatlin, stepped in as our interim president. He did an incredible job, and he actually had a hand in leading us to Mr. Ryan Waldrop, who's been right up under our nose. But Charlie's here with us today, and Beth Crumpton, our operations manager, she had retired from the Heart of Georgia Technical College system, and she is absolutely wonderful. Keeps myself and the rest of the board members on the straight and narrow, make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So lastly, Miss Miranda Peterson's our newest addition, and she's been with us a little over a year now, and she is doing a great job in her area of responsibility. So we hired Mr. Waldrop, and many of you met Ryan when we had the open house back in July. But if you didn't, Ryan is no stranger to Dublin, Lawrence County. He's been involved with us long before June of this past year. But he, prior to joining the Georgia Department of Economic Development, he served as the Telfair County Chamber of Commerce and Authority leader. He also earned his certification in economic development through the International Economic Development Council in 2006. Ryan is a graduate of Leadership Georgia and served as the program chair this past year. He's a native of McRae, Georgia. We love that because he loves rural Georgia. Ryan holds a bachelor's in speech communication and a master's in public management, both from Valdosta State University. Ryan resides in Dublin now. He got moved in about 2 or 3 weeks ago with his wife Amanda and their 2 children, Adam and Ethan. So Ryan's going to come tell us about all the great things he's going to do for our community. So come on up, Ryan.
Allen's Heating and Cooling is your licensed Amana equipment dealer. Trust Allen's Heating and Cooling to install and service your heating and cooling unit. Allen services all brands, and with the purchase of a new Amana, offers a lifetime compressor warranty. Call Sean Clark or any of his friendly staff at Allen's Heating and Cooling, your Amana dealer. Amana lasts and lasts and lasts.
You've got miles and miles of grass to mow. So you're going to need a machine built to perform. Day in and day out. Season after season. You're going to need a Gravely. Built to mow the distance.
Now at Myers Equipment and Supplies in Dublin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ooh, that sounds kind of bad. We'll try to see if that helps out. We still can't find anything in my house, by the way. So if you have a knack for finding things in a box, come over and help me dig through it. So you may be wondering what the 180 logo at the top of your program table tent is. Well, that's kind of the new vision of the authority. It's really 180 and 180. For the last 180 days, we've been working to change the course of the authority 180 degrees by working with local, regional, and statewide partners, as well as implementing new policies and procedures that will ultimately assist us in being more effective as we look to the future. One of the very first items that we accomplished at the Development Authority in June was the implementation of a software package known as LOCI, which provides us with the ability to generate detailed fiscal information for projects. In short, would you make an investment in your house or within your business without knowing what the return on your investment would be? So this gives us the ability to examine parameters of economic development projects, look at their costs, look at their benefits, and see how they're going to have a positive impact on our community. Coupled with our new incentives guidelines, the Dublin Lawrence County Development Authority is poised to be able to respond to requests, resulting in the expansion of our existing industry base and the attraction of new jobs and industries. The authority is also in the process of finalizing an application to the Georgia Department of Economic Development to have our Highway 257 rail serve site as Georgia Ready for Accelerated Development, or GRAD. The emphasis of this program is the completion of studies and assessments that are oftentimes required of greenfield development. By having these reports readily available for prospects, we're helping them do due diligence, that's a tongue twister, and be able to save them time and money as they go through due diligence. This certification will allow our industrial site to stand head and shoulders above industrial sites, not only here in the state of Georgia, but throughout the Southeast as well. We're working to have this application completed by the end of this month. Working to develop and market industrial sites is only one part of economic development, and workforce development plays a critical role in this process. Realizing this, the Development Authority has engaged several different entities within the University of Georgia, specifically the Carl Vinson Institute of Government and the J.W. Fanning Institute for Leadership Development to assist in the development of a strategic plan focused solely on workforce development. We have so many great organizations here in Dublin and Lawrence County that are working on workforce, but by engaging the University of Georgia, which has provided guidance in communities across Georgia in this great work, we'll be better able to quantify and qualify the quality of our workforce for prospects that are considering Dublin and Lawrence County. Our goal at the Development Authority is to provide the catalyst needed through the planning and research phase with a to-be-named steering committee that will oversee this entire process. In total, this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint, and will continue through the fall of 2020. Your voice in this process is vital. Listening sessions will be held with leaders in education, major industry, businesses, and other employers throughout the community. And it will not be a plan that once we've completed it will simply sit on the shelf and collect dust, but it will be used as a roadmap as we, as community leaders, help prepare our workforce for jobs that quite simply haven't even been thought of yet. We look forward to hearing your thoughts on how to better improve our workforce as this process unfolds, and we will be calling on you for assistance. Dublin and Lawrence County has been held in high esteem throughout Georgia, especially in the field of economic development. We are grateful to the close partnerships that exist between the Development Authority and our local employers, cities, county, state, and elected officials. We look forward to continuing these relationships into the new year. So on behalf of the staff of the Dublin-Lawrence County Development Authority, we wish you a happy holidays and a prosperous new year. And now, please welcome Roger Folsom with a very special presentation.
Well, I have an easier job. Some of you are looking a little stressed, like you might be on Santa's naughty list, and it's a little too late to do anything about it now. I saw that earlier. Or maybe you haven't got that shopping done or whatever. But anyway, we're going to loosen up a little bit. But this is very special to all of us on the authority, and I think to our community. And Charlie, they got me a script here. I'll try not to go off too much, but I might have to tell a few tales, but I'll try not. There's not much we can say in real words about our deep appreciation for Charlie Gatlin. But I can tell you personally, and I think each Development Authority member board member could stand here and say the same thing. There was one guy in the Department of Economic Development, and there are always good people in the Department of Economic Development, don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but there was one person, he was our go-to person in the Department of Economic Development, and that was always Charlie Gatlin. And Charlie worked with us on the authority for several years, providing assistance and advice and guidance and those type things. And then, of course, we found ourselves recently in need of someone to be the interim president, and so we called Charlie, and Kathy, I'm sure he has the word no in his vocabulary, but he's never told us no. So we said, Charlie, could you come down and help us? And Charlie was gracious and did so. But Charlie's wise counsel he's provided us on projects and guidance over the years has been just immeasurable. I mean, he's just been a wonderful friend to this authority. And Charlie, we're very appreciative of what you've done for us over the years, not just recently, certainly that, but over the years, we're very appreciative. We've almost proclaimed this Charlie Gatlin Day, but everybody's not off work, so. We did decide and thought it was very fitting, and we don't do this often. The city and the county and the Development Authority was gracious enough to provide a proclamation for you. And I don't often read entire proclamations, but this one I think deserves reading. I'll read through it as fast as I can, but it deserves reading. So the proclamation that you will be presented today reads as follows: to Charlie Gatlin, distinguished professional partner and friend. Whereas Charlie Gatlin has served his country honorably as an administration and training officer in the U.S. Air Force. Whereas Charlie Gatlin has completed a lifelong distinguished career in economic development for the citizens of the state of Georgia. Whereas Charlie Gatlin, a lot of whereases, Charlie, has served for over 20 years in a variety of roles in the Georgia State Department of Economic Development, including Deputy Commissioner of Global Commerce, Deputy Commissioner of External Affairs, Deputy Commissioner for Tourism, Department Chief of Staff, Global Commerce Projects Team Leader, Director of Marketing, Research, and Communications, Executive Director of Georgia Allies. Whereas Charlie Gatlin has served as past president, past board member of the Georgia Economic Developers Association, which recognized him in 2002 with the Rilt Wiley Award for Professional Excellence and honored him with an honorary Lifetime Member Award in 2009. Whereas Charlie Gatlin most recently served as interim president of the Dublin Lawrence County Development Authority and distinguished himself as interim president with impeccable integrity and professionalism, and specifically provided invaluable leadership and guidance to the Dublin Lawrence County on many significant economic development opportunities. Now therefore, Mr. Phil Best, Sr., Mayor of the City of Dublin, Mr. Trey Kemp, Chairman of the Lawrence County Board of Commissioners, and Mr. Guy Cochran, Chairman of the Dublin Lawrence County Development Authority, join with all the citizens in Dublin Lawrence County in thanking Mr. Gatlin for his strong commitment for enriching the lives of the citizens of this community. More importantly, we want to simply say, thank you, friend. That's your proclamation. Charlie, even we want to do something a little further. We want to put a little icing on that cake if it was possible. And we searched and we talked to a lot of little birds about this, but we come up with this idea. The Development Authority is making a nice gift to Magnolia Manor in loving memory of Mr. Edgar Ross Gatlin Jr. and in distinct honor of Isabel Gatlin, your parents. Let's give Charlie Charlie, even though we're scripted here, we're going to let you say a few words. I don't think that Beth has you any script here. And this is your proclamation. We were too cheap to get you a frame, but
I thought I'd lost my business in that fire, but my agent was there before the flames were out. He said, together, we're going to rebuild. Our employees depended on it. My independent agent and auto owners made sure we didn't skip a beat. I mean, we didn't miss a single payroll.
For whatever lies ahead, we're always there.
Curry Maffett Insurance, now located in downtown Dublin. Call 272-1234.
Good afternoon. City of Dublin Natural Gas Department, Yvonne speaking. How may I help you? You're smelling gas inside your house? Eric, at 709 Bell Drive, they're smelling gas inside their house. Could you go check it out, please?
10-4, I'll be en route.
One of our service personnel is being dispatched. At this time, please evacuate your home and move to a safe destination, away from the potential gas leak. Do not light a match, turn on any electrical switches or devices. Do not hang up your phone, place it down and leave. And please do not re-enter your home until a leak investigation has been conducted by our gas department.
Mr. Cates, I'm Brad. This is Eric. We're with the City of Dublin Gas. Are you, say you called us about smelling some gas?
Yes.
Everybody outside? Well, what we're gonna do, Eric's gonna go to the side of the house, check the meter out, make sure everything's okay, nothing's running through the meter. I'm gonna check around the door, and then we'll go inside and kind of see what's going on.
Okay.
Mr. Case, we went inside and checked around the ceiling, pretty much everywhere, all your appliances, and it looks like you're in good shape. The reason that we check up high around the ceiling is natural gas is lighter than air. It's always going to rise. We checked all your appliances. Absolutely nothing was indicated as far as gas leak goes. So I believe you're in good shape.
All right.
Ms. Case, we appreciate your business and being a natural gas customer. We're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. If there's anything that you ever need, give us a call. We'll be more than glad to come out and check anything that you need.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Have a nice day, sir.
All right.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Folks, you're so kind. I really appreciate this from the bottom of my heart. There are many things in here I could say that won't come out right from here, but Ms. Willie, you know, it's been how many years since you and I first worked together? I don't even know how long ago it was, but that's how long I've been working with Dublin and having a good time, knowing that if I ever called on Dublin and Lawrence County, they would respond. And so it's been a real honor and a privilege to be associated with you folks for this long, and not only as colleagues in economic development, but as really close friends. Thank you for what you do, and as Pat Wilson said, you folks know how to do it, and don't worry, sometimes you look at each other and say, are we really doing what we're supposed to do? You're doing as good as anybody in the state of Georgia in terms of your team and what you're achieving for the community, and my advice to you is don't ever quit. Don't quit. You're doing great, so thank you so much, and by the way, my wonderful wife is here, Kathy. She's the reason I'm standing up here, because she said, get up there and say a few words. But this really means a whole lot to me. I appreciate that. My parents were very dear to me, and this is really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie. We now call on Jimmy Allgood to formally introduce our speaker, Griff Lynch. Jimmy.
Thank you, Roger, and thank you, Charlie. I'd like to recognize Ben Hall, who's also on the Georgia Ports Authority Board with us, and Stacy Watson, the Economic Developer for the Georgia Ports Authority. Welcome, guys. It's my pleasure today to introduce Griff Lynch, the Executive Director of the Georgia Ports Authority. The Georgia ports are the fastest growing ports in the Western Hemisphere. Griff has been at the helm of the Georgia ports during this period of time. Our ports experienced month-over-month growth from prior year's growth for 26 straight months. That's incredible. Griff is from New Jersey and graduated from the Maritime College of New York. I know y'all all know about that football team. He's been all over the world in the shipping business. His leadership has provided the 1,350 direct Georgia Ports Authority employees to several thousand ILA members a clear path to excellence for the past 5 years. Personally, Griff is married to Denise, and they have, this is right, 6 children. They are devoted parents, and Denise has homeschooled them all. While Griff works virtually all the time, he has become a good quail hunter. Also this fall, he saw his first UGA football game against Notre Dame and promises me now that he is a Bulldog. Finally, Griff has a liking for our community, as he was hired on the 6th floor of the skyscraper in downtown Dublin. Please welcome Griff Lynch.
I was going to tell you a story about the 6th floor of the skyscraper, and he almost blew it for me, but I'm telling it anyway. So I got a call about, I don't know, I guess 4 years ago now, and it was Chairman Allgood, and he said, be at the skyscraper at such and such a time on such and such a day. I said, what are you talking about, the skyscraper? You'll know what I'm talking about. Here's the address. So I drove up to Dublin, and I came across it. I said, that has got to be the skyscraper right there. I'm here, I've arrived. But Dublin does hold a special place in my heart because of that. And I have to tell you, if Jimmy Allgood is an indication of and Kathy, of the quality and the type of people that live in Dublin, you, I know for a fact, have a great community. This man has been a great leader and mentor for me over the last 4 years. As much as Ben has told him not to help me, just kidding. It's really been a great relationship, and we'll show you some numbers here, but right when I started in this role, I was the chief operating officer beforehand for 5 years. And when I started in this role, I got on the phone with Jimmy and I said, hey, let's talk about what our goals you'd like to see over the next couple of years. I said, I'm thinking we should be shooting for 4 million TEUs and about $400,000 of $400 million of revenue. And he said, Griff, if you don't pull that off in the next 2 years, you're not going to be the executive director. I said, yes, sir. But I also want to recognize Ben Hall has been a great leader for the ports as well. I mean, it's a rare thing to see one community have 2 board members. There's 13 board members at the Georgia ports, and it speaks volumes about Dublin's leadership in the state as well. And then finally, Stacy Watson, who's great on the economic development side, has taught me a lot. I actually talked to him on the way up here to kind of learn a little bit more about the community. So let's get this started. I think we'll have a moment to offer up opportunity for questions when I'm done with this, and please open the floor if you have anything you'd like to know more about. We'd be happy to talk about. So the ports is comprised of 3 different locations, and I won't go into a lot of that today. We'll talk mostly about the container side just because of time, but we have a presence in Savannah, Georgia, a large Ro-Ro terminal where we load automobiles that roll onto the ships and roll off the ship. That's Ro-Ro. And then we have an inland port up in northwest Georgia, which is opened about 1.5 years ago now, which has been very successful. But if you add all those business units up, for us, what's really important is the economic development side of it. And one of the ways that we judge our success is, how are we doing? Are we helping the state grow? Are we helping create jobs in the state? And what you can see here, I'll skip some of the numbers, but at the bottom of that slide, you see 440,000 jobs. That's the number of folks that we touch throughout the state that are in the business and are somehow impacted by the ports, not all directly hired. As Chairman Olgood said, we hire about 1,350 folks. That's a number that's determined by the University of Georgia, and we do that every couple of years. We're conducting another study right now, an economic impact study, so we expect to see the same type of impact, but we were up 19%, almost 20% in just a 2-year period. So that is a great indicator of what's happening with the port, and we want to make sure we're positively impacting your community as well. Within that study of the 440,000, we look at it county by county as well. And so when you see this, we kind of just grouped, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but we took a 10, if it does, then please talk to Stacy afterwards. Just kidding, just kidding. No, we took a look at the 10-county region around Lawrence County, and so you can see that 4,400 local jobs, again, up 14% over a couple of year period. So a great story there to tell, and we're proud of that. I think this is really a message that we're trying to drive throughout the state, and that is, yes, there are a lot of bigger companies that come to the port, and yes, they're important to us, but they don't drive our business. They don't only drive our business. There's a lot of smaller companies. As a matter of fact, it's kind of amazing when you look at this. We have 25,700 customers thereabouts, and most of them, you see 25,047, are moving 5,000 TEUs or less. A TEU is simply a 20-foot equivalent unit, so it's a 20-foot container. So that would be considered a mid-sized to small customer, and so most of our customers are small, and that's why we spend a lot of time trying to make sure we meet with as many folks as we can and sell Georgia and the Georgia ports. I think the other interesting stat right there is that on the exporting side, 82% are in that small category as well. So there is no customer that's too small. Everybody that is using the ports is important to us. What's really amazing, we've got these numbers from Commissioner Wilson and his team. Georgia Department of Economic Development tells us that in 2019, they had billions of dollars of impact to the state, but the ports were tied to 68 of those projects and $5 billion of investment in the state, which is amazing and something we're proud of, and 12,000 jobs. So great thing there. A couple of customers, not only the ports, but regional industries that support us and local area here are listed, very important to us. And then as we kind of talked about the Ro-Ro business down in Brunswick, what I didn't say was we're the single largest container port in the Western Hemisphere. Now, there are larger ports, as you'll see, New York, New Jersey, LA, Long Beach, but they have many different terminals. Our 1,200-acre terminal is the largest that you'll find, and that's a special thing, great to claim. So how are we doing? In the last fiscal year, our fiscal year runs from July 1st through June 30th, so these numbers are 6 months old or so. We'll update the calendar year here shortly as we wrap up. But we were up 7.3%, now handling 4.5 million TEUs. Now remember what I said when I started, I seriously did have that conversation with Chairman Allgood, and we were in the 3 million TEU range. And I said, boy, wouldn't it be great if we get to 4 million TEUs? 3.5 years later, we're at 4.5 million, which is amazing. There are no other ports growing like this, as you'll see. And then intermodal, the lower line there is just rail containers, and you can see the pace of intermodal is doubling the pace of our organic growth on top of that. Here's a list of the large ports, large, mid-size, and small, throughout the U.S., and you can see that Savannah is the third largest port gateway in the country. And over a 10-year period, we've grown by 6.4%. That's the largest that you can see there. So very proud of that, and we can't do that without the support of the state. I failed to mention that the state representatives here, I know that there's some folks representing our federal leadership. We thank you for everything you do for us every day. We can't get it done. It's a team thing here, which we greatly appreciate. What's more important than even just our growth, what percentage we're growing at, the question is, are we gaining more market share? And this slide is a tell-all because it shows us that not only are we gaining more, but now 1 out of every 5 containers moving through the East Coast comes to Savannah, which is amazing when you think about that, because if you think about Savannah, Chatham County is only about 300,000 people. The reason that's happening is because of what's happening in Georgia as a full state, especially Atlanta and other places.
Dublin Ford Lincoln has built our business by forming many great friendships. Ben East is one of those friends.
No type of pressure at any point in time to buy. It was just a matter of if I wanted to do it or not. And that's what I enjoyed, was there was no pressure. And makes you're able to think clearly, and you're not getting pressured to do anything that you don't want to do. And so that was a very, very good way to do business, in my opinion.
Others call you customers, we call you friends. That's Dublin Ford Lincoln.
Farmers State Bank wishes you the happiest of holiday seasons and would like to take this opportunity to remind you the reason for the season. Merry Christmas from our family to yours. Farmers State Bank, with locations in Dublin and Cadwell. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender. Lawrence County's leader in hometown banking. Farmers State Bank.
One of our, if you call it, I want to call it Achilles heels, the Georgia ports has been the depth of water that we have. It's a river port. So if you go to the West Coast, there are ports that have 50 to 60 feet of water for the big vessels coming in. We have 42 feet. So for the last 20 years, we've undergone a program to try to increase the depth alongside, and I'm happy to tell you that in the next 2 years, that will be completed. We will have 47 feet of deep water. Thanks in large part, again, to the state of Georgia for helping fund $300 million of the $1 billion project, and then our federal legislators helping achieve another $700 million. Folks like Congressman Carter and Senator Perdue and Senator Isaacson have all made a big difference for us. So that project will be completed in just 2 years, and there are dredgers in the Savannah River right now working on the last phase of the project. Very exciting. So from a project standpoint, one of the things we do is we try to lay out where is our capital going to go. Everything that we've done over the last 20 years has essentially been self-funded from our own cash flow. That can't always be the case, but anything that we do is our responsibility. We'll have to pay any debt that we secure will be on us. We don't take any money from the state. So we have a $3.6 billion plan for the ports. And the reason it's so much money, and you'll see in a second, is we've got to build a new container terminal because eventually our Garden City facility is going to run out of space. And so a good problem to have, but it's a challenge to, when you think about that. Why are we having to spend $3.6 billion? This may be a kind of an eye chart for you, but the orange, the purple, the blue, and the green are just ships that are getting bigger and bigger. We used to have ships that, 30 years ago, I'll tell you a story, when I entered the industry, the largest vessel in the world was about 3,500 to 4,000 TEUs. So it could hold 4,000 20-foot containers, okay? And in just 2015, you can see that most of the ships that were calling our port were about 5,000 TEU size ships. Today, you can see that in 2019, we had 14,000. These are massive vessels that Jimmy has ridden in on the river, and 142 13,000s. The largest ships on the water are actually 23,000 TEUs. So think about that. At 30 years ago, the largest ship was 4,000, and now it's 24, 6 times the size. And so we've got to get ready for that, and these things require a lot of special things, larger cranes, bigger berth, larger terminal, and we've got to invest to prepare for that. So that's the types of things we're doing. So we were thinking about Dublin and what does Dublin bring to the table. I think, for sure the leadership is great. That has been well discussed today. And how could you fit in to what's happening in our industry? One of the things you may have heard is that workforce development, of course, is a challenge, but especially on the trucking side, there is going to be a trucker shortage. And this chart from the ATA, the American Trucking Association, tells us that by 2028, the industry will have a shortage of about 160,000 drivers. The question is always when there's a problem, how can you take advantage of that? And always when there's a problem, there's an opportunity for someone else. And I think there's an opportunity for Dublin, okay? Why? Because Atlanta is our largest market. It's a 4 to 5 hour truck drive from Savannah to Atlanta. What is the location that is dead smack in the middle of that? You're looking at it. There are regulations coming out that have rolled out in the last few years that are requiring truckers to work less hours. It's more difficult for them to operate in the traditional manner that they had in the past. So I think that Dublin could look at opportunities to capitalize on this. Just like us, a truck driver wants to go home to his family or her family at the end of the day. They want to have dinner and they want to do those things. A lot of truck drivers have never been able to do that. So when you talk about Dublin, the thought that we were having was something like what we're calling an inland motor carrier terminal. I think the key in talking to Stacy is we want to generate more traffic through your community. I don't mean traffic on your roads, more foot traffic, more people seeing what Dublin is all about. I just came down Bellevue. It's such a beautiful community, and I think these two things that were highlighted today are awesome stories. How do we get more of that? Well, one thing you can do is welcome the truck driver and look for ways to house a container yard here where truck drivers moving exports to Savannah might want to drop off an export and pick up an import. They might do half the move. Line up with another company that's going back to Savannah, bringing an import in and taking an export back to Savannah. So this is something, it's called triangulation. I'm not inventing anything new, but I think the opportunity is going to, the need for this is going to increase because of the shortage of drivers, hours of regulation for drivers and so forth. And I think Dublin is a perfect location for that. So the things we have here would be another thing in our industry that's challenging is chassis and a place to house chassis and some other empty equipment for the exporter. The last thing an export customer wants to do is go all the way to Savannah to pick up an empty container and then bring it all the way back. If there's a place that's closer to home where they can pick an empty container up, great, that will help future customers. If you have a facility like this, your community becomes more appetizing for new business as well. So something to think about. I think there's leadership, as we said, excellent leadership. Workforce, we're all struggling with that. It's something we all need to continue to work on. And then spec buildings for private development. I want to touch base on that for a second. I don't know if anybody can tell me what movie this picture is from. The Field of Dreams. I'm glad somebody said it because I actually forgot the name. I was a little nervous just now. So if you didn't get it, I wasn't going to tell you. But this is actually a clip of that, and Kevin Costner's out there in the back, and there's a cornfield, and I thought we'd show you this because our Georgia Foreign Trade Conference is coming up in February, and one of the themes for our conference is the Field of Dreams, because if you didn't know it, this is the 30-year anniversary. Now I'm going to make you all feel pretty old. The 30-year anniversary for the Field of Dreams. And while I hadn't seen a big NCAA Division I football game, I have followed baseball very closely since I was this big, the New York Yankees, of course. But in the Field of Dreams, there's a theme, and I'm sure most of you know the first theme. Can anybody tell me what that theme was? If you build it, they will come. But there's something that a lot of people don't remember. And I watched the movie recently, getting ready for our GFTC, just to remember. And actually, when I watched it a second time, 30 years ago, it was an awesome movie. Wasn't so great this time around, but there was still a good theme. And the other theme was go the distance. Okay? The if you build it, they will come is easy to say. It doesn't necessarily mean the business comes immediately. But the go the distance part, I think, how does this relate to Dublin? I think we know the answer to that. And we welcome the folks from Perry Ellis, and from the port standpoint, we are so excited to have you, and we're so grateful that you selected Dublin. But what happened in just the last 3 months, you had a DC that was available and formerly used by another company that has now been selected by Perry Ellis. Great name, great brand, and they'll do great things. And not too far from here in McRae County, you had a Husqvarna plant that was empty, and we have a new firm, Guidoni, that's coming in. They're moving from South America, which I know George Power had a lot to do with bringing them in. We met with them several months ago. And so there were 2 buildings available. I don't know how many sites have buildings, but I don't think there's that many like this. And guess what? They will be fully occupied in the coming months. In Savannah, one of the things that we credit our success to is driving investors to make available spec buildings. We show how much capacity or vacancy we have, and when that vacancy rate gets below 3-5%, we've got a problem because we don't have enough space for customers to come to the port and immediately turn something on. I think it's very similar. I told Jimmy this morning, when I moved here from New York with my family, I wanted to buy a house that was there. I didn't have time to build a house. And I think customers are the same way often. You may have spec buildings that may not be perfect, but getting a quick start is more important. And I can assure you that every week, Stacy and our sales team are meeting with private equity and what we call beneficial cargo owners like Perry Ellis, the folks that control the cargo, and they want a home. The West Coast is congested. It's very expensive to work over there. It's expensive to live. And they're looking for opportunities to move to the East Coast. And often, the folks that win the business are the ones that were one step ahead and had a pad-ready site or a building that was ready to go. And I won't beat the drum too hard here, but somehow I think the real difference maker is getting those investors in here. You may have great sites, and I know you do, is to get that one building, get foot traffic in here. As Stacy had told me, Pat Wilson, somebody knocks on his door and they say, show me the buildings you have available. And if you don't have a building, you've just been eliminated from a lot of different prospective investors and or customers. So we've got to get buildings. You don't need a bunch of buildings, you just need a couple to get started. And once it begins, and once your community gets, people are going to hear about Perry Ellis, they're going to watch Guidoni, they're going to see why are they going there. And I think others will follow. But that would be my one kind of piece of advice to work on moving forward.
Quality products and installations since 1985. That's 4 Seasons.
Portions of this program are brought to you by Fairview Park Hospital, a leader in healthcare for Dublin, Lawrence, and surrounding communities, providing specialty services through facilities such as our Sleep Center, Heart Center, and Women's Imaging Center.
And then I was really impressed by this. You asked what kind of sites do we have. I know I've been to the Heart of Georgia mega site several years ago, and we've tried to help market that as well. But I think, again, we need to get more than just sites, but we need building or pad ready. And I don't know how many of these are pad ready, but something to look at for the future. Why do you know that you could be successful if you do this? This is why. I mentioned it earlier. It's because you are 2 hours away from the largest city in the Southeast, the second largest city on the East Coast, and it's growing. And it's going to continue to grow that way. People are moving here. Trust me, I'm one of them, and we are never going back, okay? Okay, so that's the way it is. And then, I mean, when you think about Atlanta, it's just a massive, massive market. So I think that you've got great opportunities to be part of that and to tap into that market. So what are we doing about the future? I thought we'd share with you kind of our 10-year program. And I'll try to talk just a little bit, but this is an animation which I think encapsulates our growth plan. Refrigerated business is big for us, so we call them reefer racks. These are refrigerated containers. Poultry is big out of Georgia, so we're building more racks. Just completed, that's it completed now. The first picture you'll see is an animation we did last year. This was an animation, and we said we're gonna double our gate. It's done, that's the real thing. Okay, so truck gates, we're growing 13,000 truck moves a day. We need more yard space. That's being built as we speak, thanks to our board members approving these projects. 400,000 TEUs of capacity coming online over the next year. And some of you may have heard about our mega rail project. We're laying down right now 100,000 feet of new rail track to become the largest hub for rail cargo in North America. And that is a really exciting project that will start coming online here this year. The mega rail, we can currently handle 500,000 containers a year. We'll be able to handle 1 million rail lifts a year with that project. New roadways, thanks to GDOT. We're opening up new ways and beltways to approach our facility. And with Brampton Road Connector will be done in 2023. That's exciting stuff. But looking forward, I mentioned these big ships. So we need big cranes to work big ships. So we just took delivery of 3 ship-to-shore cranes. We're going to move our berth back, which means demolish it and rebuild a new one so we can work bigger ships on that berth. And the cranes will be 170 plus feet high versus what we have today, which are about 120 feet, the older cranes. So why are we doing that? These are 14,000 TEU vessels. That's what they look like alongside our berth. We can currently work 3. We'll be able to work 4 in the future. And then well into the future, we're looking to work 6 at the same time, have 6 14,000s alongside. No other port can do anything near that, so that's going to be a differentiator. And that's that'll get us to 8.5 million TEUs. But it doesn't stop there. And once again, I asked the folks to put a second half of the video in there, and it's not there. But I'm sorry for that. So remind me to shoot Jeff when I get back. I'm on TV. I'm sorry about that. So the YES program, I think it started with, a couple slides ago we talked about workforce development. I want to tell you a little story about what we're doing to help grow our workforce. There's a lot of folks and a lot of kids out there, and I have 6 of them, so I know kids pretty well. My wife would tell me I don't, but I think I know them okay. And they're not all the same. We all have different interests, and some want to go to college and go do, be a lawyer or whatever it might be, and some want to work with their hands and work in a trade. And that's great. We need more of those, the latter. We need more trade folks. And so what the Georgia Ports Authority has done, starting 2 years ago, is we went to the high schools, the local high schools in Savannah, and we said, look, we want to hire kids not for an internship. We want to hire them right out of high school. We're going to give them a mentor, and we are going to train them. We're going to train them how to be truck drivers. They're going to be forklift operators. They're going to be crane operators. And I'm so proud of this. I think that there's one thing that I'm really moved by is to see the kids that came in 2 years ago now, and now they are qualified crane operators in our yard equipment. They're 18, 19 years old, and they're responsible. They didn't all have the soft skills that you'd want them to have, but that's why they have a mentor, and they've learned how to do it. And they've seen the results of their work, not only in the progress that they've made personally, but in their paycheck. These are kids that start at $15 an hour. In a couple of years, they'll be making $30 an hour. And it's a really great job, and I hope that they'll work for the Georgia ports like our other folks 30 or 40 years. And they can be the future leadership of our port. So we started with 6, and I think we've just added, I know we've I asked our team to hire 20 this year, but it's a lot to take on, and we're implementing a system where we can hire these folks and make sure they have the right mentorship, because it's not a matter of just training them and throwing them out there. We want to make sure we bring them up the right way and they learn the culture of the business, and they're successful. We want them to be successful. So next year, our goal is to hire, we did 8 this year. These are all qualified folks now. They came in on August 1st. They graduated in May and started up in August. And they're doing a great job. So we now have 12 young people working at our terminals that graduated local Savannah high schools that hopefully will be with our ports for a long time. And my hope truly is that we can grow this number each year to 30 to 40. We had hundreds and hundreds of kids apply to this. And I was upset we can only select this number. But I think in the long run, we can do it. We have the workforce. They're in high school. They're in elementary school right now. We've got to get out there and talk to the kids in the schools and prepare them and show them there is hope. There is a life. You can have a great job. Regardless of what your family or your friends may be telling you, there is a future, and the future is very bright. This country is growing at a rate that is blowing most people away. We don't even know why we're growing. The Southeast has a special thing going on. We have to make sure we understand what that is and don't lose sight of making Georgia a great place to do business, and that's what it's really all about. So I'll open the floor for questions. That's it from my side. Thank you very much. Okay, the Golden Ray. The Golden Ray is the vessel down in off of St. Simon's that had turned over on the way out. And the bottom line is we were hoping that they would get to refloat that ship. It was going to be scrapped and move it off, and that's not possible. So the Coast Guard and the firms that are working on that, the salvage crews, are bidding out to a salvage company the idea of cutting the vessel up. It'll take quite some time. I think a year would probably be aggressive to say that they could be done in a year, probably more likely in a year and a half. So they'll go out there and they'll cut the ship up in 4 big sections, remove it with a big salvage ship, and then cut it up into smaller pieces. But that's the way it's going to be, and it's a very unfortunate incident. I wish it didn't happen. It's not a phone call you ever want to get, but now it's a matter of kind of getting it cleaned up and moving it out. Thank you. By the way, I'm sorry, when I got the call from Jimmy on Thursday afternoon or Friday to come up here, he said, Griff, what are you doing on Thursday 19th? I said, I'm open. I need you to be up here because, but you're going to drive past the skyscraper. No, but you got to, Senator Perdue can't make it. I said, okay, I'm shorter than him. I'm not as good looking as him, and I can't speak as well as him, but I hope we did okay today. I'm sorry about that. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.